It is through getting real with oneself and creating space for a shift in perspective to occur that brings us home to ourselves, where we realize that all of who we are is welcome.
Hello, welcome, Syren.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Very good.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to share this space with me and bring your energy and magic into the podcast. I'm really excited for whatever's going to flow through us.
Yes, thank you for having me, and I'm excited and really honored to be here with you. I really enjoy what you're bringing through each episode with each of your guests. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So do you mind, just want to open up the space with you just telling me, whoever's listening and watching, just a little bit about yourself?
Oh, sure. That's such an interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is. It trips up everyone every time. Everyone gets tripped up by this. They're like, "Wait a second, how do I
Right,
answer this?" However, whatever flows through you in this moment is totally perfect.
right. Yeah, it's such a vast question, and
Hmm.
I guess, for me, when I was as long ago as I can remember, like being even before even a kid, real small,
Hmm.
remembering like I came for such a specific purpose,
Hmm.
and but being like in and on the earth, even at that time, being a child, going, I know I have this like, and I've always felt like I would use the term mission, right? And
Hmm.
but not knowing what that was, and it always felt for like it was for later, and
Hmm.
with different things I understood to be my gifts,
Hmm.
and some of those, obviously as you evolve, you come to learn more details of like what those gifts are, how you utilize them to, help others and all the things. But I remember, like even when people would talk, hearing the sounds or their, the sounds they would make, and like the geometrics, the shapes of all that, and what it would feel like, and knowing
Hmm.
there was all these layers to everything that I started to explore through my art, like, layering art and watching it transform energy in different ways,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
realizing that through the sounds and the tones, even in feeling so intensely, just feeling everything so intensely, seeing the correlation of the sounds, the tones, the intentions, and in the manifestation of the thought, and realizing all of those different components through my exploration of, being here, and then on a planet where I was like, what is this? What is this place?
Hmm.
Who are these people? What are we doing? What are we all doing here? And why am I waiting till later to share all this? Because it always felt like, well, it's not time yet. It's not time yet. It's not time yet.
Hmm.
Uh, and to continuously like feel like I was, um, expanding and evolving and prepping for this future timeline, but yet being in a place that I'm like, yeah, but it's all changing. It's all different.
Hmm.
And this isn't really how like what the truth is, and
Hmm.
bringing, knowing there's information and energy transformation to bring forth and through, but like don't talk about it yet. It's not time yet. They're going to think
Hmm.
this, that, or the other thing, because you can feel, like when the readiness is for those things.
Hmm.
So I mean, as a summary, a brief summary, is the exploration and my personal evolution on a plane and a planet, knowing that, like when I came in, even as a baby, I'm like, but all these ways that people are stumbling through, and even like say they would have a thought, right? Could
Hmm.
feel they'd have a thought, but they'd feel one way. But what they're expressing with words isn't really how they felt, and then they
Hmm.
get a different result, and I'm like, I don't understand any of this. And kind of watching that and learning through that, and knowing that my learning of being in a place that I was like, yeah, but these polarizations, the polarity things, is what everyone's evolving like out of, because
Mhm.
I was like, that's not really the true nature of everyone. They just don't know
Mhm.
yet, or, they're learning through it to find out, all the things that they're learning through
Mhm.
each experience. And my learning through those, not just witnessing, but, in my own experiences of all these polarities on earth is like, how can I learn through these things with what I know that I came to offer and also um, help others with, because,
Mhm.
being in these experiences, you're like, but it doesn't even feel like, you know, I mean, whatever descriptive word you would insert, right? You're like, it just doesn't feel like that would be something someone would choose, right?
Mhm.
And but it's still part of the grand design is to have those like ranges of, you know, um, varying degrees of exploration and potential
Mhm.
to learn from and through and evolve your own soul, right? Depending on
Mhm.
who's working on what.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, it's been a really interesting being here and knowing like all the things that I, knew and have come as I've, you know, grown and expanded my own way is knowing like all the evolutions of what's yet to come. This,
Mhm.
say this, future per se, but at the same time, there's other terms used like say new earth and all of this. And it's like, well, it's not really new. It's like new for what everyone's, aware of right now, but really
Mhm.
it's a returned way of being. It's returning to who everyone actually is. It just, been a lot of other stuff
Mhm.
occurring and forgetfulness or distraction and all the things.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you went right into the depths of the like ether, which is so beautiful. I appreciate that because I feel like that tells me more of who you are and tell like for me, so I'm not going to speak for anyone else listening or watching. That tells me more of who you are than you telling me like where you're from or like the things that you've done and stuff like that. It's just that the depth that you gave in that response painted such a beautiful picture for me, um, as someone who's newly been introduced to you in this physical sphere that we're in. And so thank you for just diving right in and being so, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't even know if the word like ethereal, some people are saying meta now with like the technology stuff, but yeah, it's just, I don't know that anyone's answered that question that way, and I think that speaks to how, like, unique and different we all are, and I just love like, I love it, so thank you. Um, I am curious, though, like, you mentioned your mission and knowing your mission from a young age, what are the ways that that mission is showing up for you right now? And in the ways that whatever you're offering, into the world or the things that are like present and alive for you right now.
Sure. Um, I love that question. It's great. Because it feels like the energy really, I mean, and in all these different ways too, collectively, tuning into what's unfolding and even what's,
Mhm.
reconfiguring and all of that,
Mhm.
is that like this is the time, it's like
Mhm.
this is the time that there's been different facets, if you will, or different increments of my life where I could feel like the you want to say the priming, but like where it's like almost like it's almost time to
Mhm.
to to expand in a more outward way to share
Right.
information, like when it's in a readiness to receive it, right? Because
Mhm.
everything has to be at the right time, the right place, the right all the things for it to be received and actually expanded upon
Mhm.
for the good of all. So the way it's showing up for me is like all these um, learnings and expansions of my own self and what I've been receiving, say for example, through because I work with sounds, tones, and high frequencies, but that's like on all these different layers. It's through
Mm.
energy session, like energy transformation, transmutation with people utilizing light and
Mhm.
frequency and sound through a session, but it's also through dialogue, discussion with others, sharing expansive information. Like we're having this open dialogue, which is so
Mhm.
far vast and vaster beyond than what the words are being said.
Mhm.
It's all the layers that it's, assisting people with in a multitude of ways. It's like to
Mhm.
describe and say what that might be is feels like limiting, and
Yeah.
that that alchemy of sharing information, open, the energy even of having the discussion, people being able to feel that,
Mhm.
and open themselves to their intuition, if and at what components they're able to. um, so communication with education,
Mhm.
part of sharing all this information I came with, all these
Mhm.
different, you could say ancient future, which is right now, it's all happening now, these eternal nows, but all this
Mhm.
information and awareness I have is from ancient time, ancient beings, and it's like, but now people are able to receive it without
Mhm.
saying, "What are you talking about?" Or "What," or
Mhm.
"I don't want that." Or, if you bring information out and it's not the time, they might get upset or triggered or
Mhm.
something, you know?
Mhm.
And, or through my art, I have books. I write books with high frequency word that I will, like you could say a lot of things about words, I'm sure you've heard many different people saying, well, this word means this and this word means that. And it's like, the word only means what you're allowing it to have for you of relevancy.
Mhm. Yes.
So, I mean, I can go to a grocery store, hear words all over the place, and they just sound like static because there's nothing inside of them. And
Mhm.
it's what frequency is in the word you're using. How are you intending it? How is it being utilized? How is it, undulating? Because even if you're having a thought or an intention, how is that coming across, even if no one hears the word? But that frequency of what you're offering,
Mhm.
and that is in, like, say, for example, the books with the art, I
Mhm.
was talking before about the geometric shapes of, different layers of shapes, geometrics, information sequences. It's like very beyond, I feel very beyond sacred geometry. It's very
Mhm.
complex, but
Mhm.
in that complexity, it simplifies the beingness of all that we are, which is this interconnectivity of all the light and all,
Mhm.
say, for example, the lines, right? And the dots,
Mhm.
like all of our satellites coming together. So many times the artwork will have lines and dots. It's all the interconnectivity of all that we are. And
Mhm.
people are even receiving that um, realization of, say, for example, the art receiving what it is, or as art therapy would be, right? Where
Mhm.
it's helping them release things without needing to know what is it or where is it from, what the trauma is about, or coming up with a story about it. It's the energy of the piece, whatever the intentions
Mhm.
are, or in the coordinated, usually a lot of times it's poetry and word and high frequency, like different words together to even transform energy. And
Mhm.
those are created together, the poetry and the art. So like they're receiving all of the energetics of energy transformation and receiving it through a visual representation, for example, say the art in the book, a
Mhm.
tool. It's a tool, like creating sound healing albums are tools. It's the sound, it's a tone, it's a frequency that's releasing the energy
Mhm.
that may not even be known about from different layers, different lives, different times,
Mm.
and so all these different tools, and even just the frequency of anyone's being, right? The frequency of them receiving themselves through the reflection of me standing here, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
Many years ago, it would feel very foreign to people,
Yeah.
not based on what does somebody look like, but the energy, like, well, because they didn't want it. They didn't want it.
Yeah.
It was too much. It's too bright. Turn it down, right?
Mhm.
And it's like but the energy is much more vastly open. So people being able to actually receive in an experience, say it's an exchange that has nothing to do with the books, the podcast, the word education, all, with any of the details, but showing up, walking through a room, receiving the reflection of the light that they have,
Mm-hmm.
activation, beyond
Yeah.
all of these tools being activating, opening, expansive tools, being able to see themselves
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and,
No.
and their brilliance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the fact that we can have conversation, not that we can, but I feel like there are some conversations, especially between certain individuals, where the energetic frequency may, how do I want to put this? Maybe at a rate at which the physical dimension and space that we're in does not align. And so sometimes, like, I've experienced this during several readings and things with Erin, um, one of our friends, to give context to people, and she was on the podcast before, where literally we've had technology issues, and we've had to like restart the reading several times. It would glitch out, and so sometimes I'm like, okay, that's interference coming through, and maybe this isn't like, are we able to pull through and bring this energy through in this moment? And I think it sort of speaks to how things are starting to open and expand, and also creating this space and the intention for, specifically with this podcast, for whatever's meant to flow through will come through, and people will hear what they're intended to hear, and being able to have a conversation where we are really peeling back the layers of the sound and the light and the textures between all of that, and stripped down to its simplest form. It is all like, we are all light beings, and it's all love, and whether that's through words or art or conversation or books or silence and just viewing something, like it's all made up of the same matter and energy. And what a gift to be able to have these conversations and bring these things into the physical space, bring them up and out, and dive into energies that I think collectively more and more people are starting to reach this space where they can hear these things and internalize and receive them. And there's also going to be people that listen to what we're saying and are like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what are they even talking about? And that's all perfect, because it's all and it's in an unconscious, subconscious, whichever way you'd like to say it. And at an unconscious level, it's coming through, it's coming through, and it's coding into our DNA. And whether we are consciously aware of it or not, it's perfect. And it's already, just us speaking these words is sort of fusing into like our beings and our energetic fields.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
And it's
it
beautiful.
it is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And people always find what they need out of,
Exactly.
if it's a conversation and however it resonates, or the perspective of,
Mm-hmm.
they'll hear exactly what they need of it, or they won't find it at all, or they'll find it when they're ready. And it's
Yes.
always perfect, right?
Yes. And that's why, like, with all of you as welcome, that's, my intention with this was very specific, in terms of specific, and also just like boundless, because it's like anything and anyone is welcome in this space, and whatever's going to come through is going to come through, and it's all perfect. And not forcing myself to show up in a space that doesn't feel authentic to who I am. And I am a multifaceted, ever evolving soul in a human body, and honoring that. And that's a reflection too of the people that are around me and the people that I invite to be in this space with me. And it's, as I'm continuing on this journey, as it's unfolding, it's beautiful to exist in it, and to be sharing this space with you, and to also observe the conversations and the energies that are being exchanged is, I think, beyond what my current human can really process. Um, and it's just, yeah, it's an incredible experience. And I'm curious, what comes through for you when you hear all of you is welcome, or when you read the title of that? Like when you see all of you is welcome, when you hear it, what comes through for you, whether it's in your body, a thought that comes through, colors, anything, literally anything. I'm just curious as to what your experience is with that.
Right. Well, I mean, it actually feels so um almost like a parallel to, the all the reflections and times of, and you could say years, in the linear, right?
Mhm.
But all the times in my life where it was like I have all this information, right? But it's
Mhm.
not now, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it's, all the things, right? And it's like, no, all of you, however you are, whatever you show up as, with or without a name tag, right, is
Yeah.
welcome. Like, just come as you are, and you don't need to do it later. Like, it doesn't. You don't have to wait to be yourself, right? You
Yeah.
show up as you, and it's perfect. And however it ripples into, you know, all of the ripples is
Mhm.
how it does, and it's
Yeah.
and I think that's what's so beautiful too about you showing up with with this offering of your podcast is like people are all of us as all are ready to say whatever so-called was, like, I want to be who I am. I want to,
Mhm.
I want, in whatever way that looks for me,
Yeah.
whatever way that is, that I can be of service, or I can do use my special toolkit, right? Because I
Mhm.
came, and when I say I came in, I mean all of the other I's and all the other we's of the all of us. We
Mhm.
all, only each of us can do what we came to do.
Right.
And all of us as us, not playing any other role other
Mm.
than being ourselves authentic, is beyond being just enough. It's everything, because it's all of us.
Mm.
All need each other to be ourselves.
Mhm. Yes.
I was like, yeah, we all are part of the all.
Yes.
Every facet, and irregardless, or regardless, another word, right? But but of that is, even in, say, the cloudy parts or the facets or whatever's going on for us, each of us in the moment, through these expansions and processes, we're still innately perfect, right?
Yes,
As
absolutely.
us.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's this like interconnectedness, right? Like the I ask this question because everything, I mean, everything is up to interpretation, and all the things that we speak, the things that we see are just from our own perspective. And the way in which I may interpret all of you as welcome can be vastly different from the way you do and the way someone else does. And it's fascinating to hear all of the different iterations. And I love what you brought into the space right now with the interconnectedness of it all. Like, yes, it is all of me, my individual self is welcome, and it's bringing those parts, all of it to the table, and all, as in all of us as a collective, are welcome. And we all make up, like, we're the sum of one part, basically. And, or the sum of, yeah, the sum of one part? What am I trying to say right now? Well, it'll land as it's meant to land. Basically, it's all connected. We are all one, and that layer of interconnectedness in the all of you is welcome is such a fascinating perspective that I hadn't really thought about. So thank you for bringing that into this space, because like I feel like that just sort of expanded my awareness of really what this is and what this space can be. And um both at the micro and the macro level, the individual and the collective, it's all like all of it is perfect. And at the individual level and at the vast global scale level, like all of it, all of you is welcome, like all being all of us and you being the singular and the collective you. Um, so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that perspective.
You're
It's
welcome.
incredible. Yeah, you're so wise. I love it. Like it's just, yeah, you come with such a wise doesn't feel like the right word, and this is where I am grateful for energetics and that being able to like feel and flow within the frequency that's going between us, especially because I mean, like I said earlier, you and I just connected in this physical realm a matter of weeks ago. And here we are able to arrive in this space and have these conversations. And it's like, oh, like my soul recognizes yours and creates the space for us to be able to talk about these things. And it's so beautiful. And as I, yes, for the purpose of this podcast, but also selfishly for myself, wanting to get to know you better, what is there a specific, it doesn't need to be specific, but is there an experience or a time, you alluded to this a little bit before, but has there been a time where, yeah, you didn't feel like all of you was welcome? And how did that sort of like manifest in your life?
Oh, that's great. Um, yeah, probably most of the time, to be honest.
Mm,
Um, especially as a child, um, because I would create all these, like I would even all these different medias of art, right? Different things. Even say, for example, this is one example, like different bracelets, right? This
mm.
one example. But I would just start playing with the frequency of the knots. I was like, oh, if I tie this way, it makes this shape and it does this thing, right?
Yeah.
And I'd make all these things out of these things of different art and also watch what they were making into each other. And then I would go to school, right? And the groups of the kids together, you talk about all, right? There would be groups together and they go, oh, it's so weird, right? It's so weird because it's different. It's weird. But off to the side by themselves, they go, can you make me one of those? Can you make, and it was
Yep.
almost all the time, right? Almost all the time. Like I don't the I, when I say I don't mean I'm thinking this way, but the child having these thoughts of like, I don't want them to think I like something that's different
Hmm.
just because, and they don't know what what loop or program is in what they've learned by that age, right? They don't know.
Hmm.
But I could feel like as the asking was occurring, I was like, but none of this even feels like it makes any sense. So
Mm.
I would say, no, I'm not making you one. You're not even nice. Like you're not,
Good.
you know, and it's like, well, because it's just all the things, the energies weren't lining up, right?
Hmm.
But and to me, like in the, you could say the all of you is welcome or isn't, was like I was in that case, in those cases, I mean, I always felt this deep connection to space, right?
Mm.
And so I would not be really present with them, right? Because I was like, well, I can
Hmm.
just do all my things and my stuff
Hmm.
and exist, and I don't need to
Hmm.
really, if you're not gonna appreciate, right, or whatever, whatever. They don't know,
Yeah.
they're kids, right? But
Right.
but so it was a feeling of like a, you don't fit, right? You don't
Hmm.
fit. And I was like, yeah, but I don't want to fit in that because I can feel that your thought and your word and your manifestation aren't even lining up, and I was like, well,
Mm.
this all feels like a mess. I don't want any part of it. So there was this experience of learning, of going, "Oh, like, I get it. I get it. Because it wasn't really, nothing really is about the thing it appears to be per se, right?
Hmm.
So if it's looking like it's that, it's like, "Well, what is this really about?" rejection of self. What is this really about? All these other things, right? And that learning of what I had already known to be this energy of these polarized experiences, or you say, like, how do you bring this through you, who you are, all of you, and be welcome within yourself, going, it doesn't matter what it looks like to someone
Mhm.
else. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
what it feels like to someone else, because they said they want it anyways. And they actually want to be themselves too. Because you
Yeah.
could feel they want to be themselves. They don't know how to do it because their mom or dad said this or that, don't wear that because only boys do that, or whatever. All these
Yeah.
labels,
Yep.
right? Whatever
Yeah.
the case is. Just an
Mhm.
example.
Yeah.
But so witnessing all these boxes from a small age, people put themselves in these boxes, not even
Mhm.
realizing. And through that going, well, okay, so I notice this, I see this, I've experienced this, and how can I say, no matter what, I need and want and choose to be myself anyways, because I
Mhm.
know it's important, like it's important.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
wasn't always the so-called easiest thing, right? Because you're like, why is everyone looking at me like that? Like,
Yeah.
but you didn't come here to be everyone else. You came here to be yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I mean, that was a consistent and um I guess what's interesting is, as I got, you say older, but as I got older, they would say it's because of what you look like, right? You look different. But it was even when you look like a regular kid person, it's the frequency of is different
Yeah.
than the loop, being in the
Mhm.
loop. I was like, I don't want any part of the loop. I'm not in the loop.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
knowing that all of me participating and existing as all of me, even with, even and with however it's going to be perceived is from the perceiver for them to figure out, right?
Yeah.
And they just,
Mhm.
and that was like early lessons of like,
Mhm.
oh, it's not even me. Like, it's not, I'm just being myself,
Yeah.
you know? And you want my bracelet anyways, or
Yeah.
whatever it is,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah. 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 It's amazing too. Like, so did you have this awareness as a kid? Like, are you speaking from your current awareness projecting back into your childhood, or was this like these were your thoughts as a child where you were like very aware of like, okay, this person is telling me they want something of mine, yet which it seems like you did have this awareness, but it's like the way that you're speaking. Did you have this awareness as a child?
I could feel the thoughts of people. Like,
Wow.
I could feel that, like when people say I see this or I see that, I
Yeah.
don't see or it in that way, but I would feel the thought, like I'd feel
Mhm.
the thought instantly as what
Cool.
it is. And as soon
Mhm.
as I felt the thought, but then I'm hearing the word they're saying,
Yeah.
and then the thing that they're actually getting per se out of the misalignment of, it's like it's all, none of those things are the same. They're all incongruent to each other. Your thought,
Mhm.
and then even what your soul is saying is something completely different. So you have all these
So
different
different.
conversations, and I could feel all of that. And I could even feel that within, like, say,
Wow.
teachers they're saying this lesson, and I wouldn't pay attention, right? And they would call on me and ask me the answer to the question. I was like, that's not what happened. I would say it's not what happened. They go, well, how do you know? Were you there? Is what I would ask them. That didn't happen. That's not the way it happened. Because I could feel it wasn't true,
Fascinating.
and yeah, and it was like, I'm not able to say, do the yes, 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 to pass me by. Like, to me, that's always felt like, well, then what did I come to earth to do?
Mhm.
So when I would question, if they would ask me, I would feel like required from my soul to be honest. Like, I was like,
Mhm.
I can't just say this is the answer to question number 4, it's letter A. Like, to me, I'm like, it's none of those things.
Yeah.
And it was just like they were so defeated in a way, like, well, she's not listening, she's not paying attention. And none of these things are valid. These aren't even things that, it's just regurgitation of information, but that's not even the way it took place, you know?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I don't wish to challenge the information. I'm just saying I'm not going to agree to it
Mhm.
if it doesn't feel right, you know? And
Yeah.
but I could always feel those things that were off
Mhm.
in some kind of way,
Mhm.
and especially with interactions with others, feel immediately, like, say, with the thoughts, I'm like, "No, no." Even
Mhm.
if I'm not outwardly saying, "Hey, you think this thing," and I know it, like, you know, because
Mhm.
that would be, some people might go, "Oh, that feels like I don't like that."
Mhm. Mhm.
So, you know, but being aware of it and being like, "I just not gonna participate." It's not
Mm.
true.
Yeah. That's fascinating. It's fascinating because I don't know that I've like, especially as a child where at least I'm coming from my perspective, right? And like I haven't lived as any other child except me. But from what I have lived through and what I've been able to feel from observing others too is like in this space of childhood, like we are so we are the most aware and connected ever. And for many of us, the programming and beliefs that are basically thrust onto us from parental figures, from friends, from teachers, from news outlets and TV and whatever it is, whatever, like games, toys, like all of these things that we're constantly inundated with. At a certain point, it's almost like I wonder if it's almost like a defense mechanism to sort of shut down at that point. And like the awareness goes off, like it's like I can't even do this anymore. And so I just want to acknowledge like that's incredible that even as a kid, as you're it's like not even challenging because you were true to yourself. You stayed true to yourself and you where it would have been very easy, and I feel like a lot of kids probably would have just made the bracelets for the people because it's the easiest thing to do and like yeah, fine, then I'll be liked, or would have forced themselves to answer the questions in the way that they knew was expected of them. And so to receive what you're saying and as I'm processing it, it's just so fascinating. And again, I'm like expanding my consciousness. Like you're helping to expand my consciousness because it's like, no, there are kids that are doing this every day, that are really showing up, just because that wasn't my lived experience. And from what I've seen around me, like you're just a perfect example of like, no, there are kids that are just showing up in their truth and they're being authentic to themselves and especially being so sensitive to all of the energies and like not losing touch with that, remaining connected to that intuition, regardless of how that showed up for you in the external. So it's almost like this twofold of, yes, maybe in those moments you may not have felt that all of you was welcome and you were still welcoming those parts of yourself because in the ways that you were showing up, right? Just based off of what you were saying. And that's such a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well,
It,
you're welcome.
yeah.
It's for me, it was always, you say, you know, like I know a lot of people in this current moment are coming into honoring, say, their intuition, right? You know,
Mhm.
and really, really whatever it is that they're feeling or allowing their heart to be their guide, however you want to word it. But for me, that was like that was my compass. Was, well, what does it feel like? And it has all the answers.
Mhm.
And every time I would feel it, I trust it, and I would adjust whatever it was,
Mhm.
even if that meant just saying, these aren't my people, right? It's just gonna
Mhm.
not participate in this discussion or whatever the case, right?
Mhm.
But honoring whatever that was, it always showed me that I was right and I felt right. Like would, and the more you refine that, like that was how I really started to um, consistently fine tune. Because anytime or I say you, whoever would not listen to the internal guidance of any kind of feeling where you walk in a room and you're like, oh, if you deny that, it'll show you you were right, right? It'll always show
Mhm.
you you're right.
Mhm.
And coming to trust that was like, that was my school, right? It was like,
Mhm.
well, the teacher's not saying anything that feels really entirely valid. Maybe a couple, things here and there,
Mhm.
but most of it's just, a program that they're not even thinking thoughts about. But what does it feel like? What does it feel like? What does it feel like?
Mhm.
Everything's right there. And even the lessons you would get, say you get lessons in different kinds of ways. You learn from going for a walk, right? Or an
Mhm.
experience, a different experience. So it's not always it doesn't always come the way people might think it comes, especially when
Mhm.
you're a child, right? You're watching, you're witnessing, you're observing everything, right? And you're learning
Mhm.
from your experiences and expanding. And like for me, that's how I learned everything. Was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. Were you in living in your truth and like your authentic expression in in following the guidance from your heart and your intuition and your body and the feelings that were coming up, did you find like from kid as a child through your life up until this point, was it met with a lot of resistance from other people? Because you mentioned the things about like the other kids and the teachers. Was that something that perpetuated like throughout your life up until a certain point? Like that
Uh,
resistance from other people?
it was very triggering. I noticed
Mm,
just, yeah, it was very triggering. So it was like by the time you get to whatever the point was, you're like, you realize the triggers aren't about
yeah.
you. But when you're a kid, you don't always realize that, right? You're like, what did I do wrong? Why are they saying
Mm,
no to me? Or whatever,
mhm.
right? Because you're like, well, I don't understand what kind of program are we running on Earth here? Because this doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
but as learn that, and you're like, oh, I get it. This reflection of me is triggering, say, you not being truthful to you. Like,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
usually that's what it is. Like, oh, but I'm here in this suit and tie and I hate my life, right? And I'm doing this thing I don't like, and you're not. You're
Yeah.
being yourself and you
Yeah.
don't fit into the box. Why am I
Mhm.
doing the box thing? And
Mhm.
it was very, very triggering on occasion, very rare occasion now, still triggering to certain people, but it just depends on whatever plane they're residing on. The more closed
Mhm.
off they are to allowing themselves to express fully, the more uncomfortable they may be with the energy or the appearance
Mhm.
and or even the words I might be using and
Mhm.
beyond that, the frequency of them, all the other layers that are going on as you're
Yeah.
saying walk in a room. You walk in a room of people that don't know who they even are. And you
Mhm.
walk in as you, not playing any role, just being yourself.
Mhm.
Sometimes they leave,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that's not a rejection of me. That's a rejection of the reflection of them not knowing who they are or where to find
Yeah.
within themselves what even makes them happy. It's not about anyone looking or being or acting or offering what anyone else is, right? It's just about, well, what brings you joy? What makes
Yeah.
you feel like you're, what do you feel like is why you came? Or
Mhm.
maybe some people don't know, and it's the undoing to discover what that is.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes those catalyzing moments
Mhm.
for some people.
Yeah.
But still, anyone whoever's existing as themselves, however it looks or shows up or feels to someone else, can really assist someone if they allow that trigger to do so, right?
Yeah.
Uh, And
Mhm.
sometimes it takes a long time, or they're never able to come back from the trigger. For example,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
some people they get so triggered and they just shut down and they
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was very, um, from what I recall of my early childhood, there was a lot of shame that was projected onto me, when I was in my fullest expression, and so, yeah, it got to a certain point where I did shut down, lights out, was asleep, walking through the existence, and was jolted awake in what a lot of people refer to as like a rock bottom, like hitting this rock bottom, let's say, which mine was like a progressive falling in and like falling deeper and deeper. Um, and it wasn't until I really chose to step into, okay, this undoing of all of these parts of myself that aren't actually me, that I took on, stripping that away and walking that path back home to myself and remembering like who I am and like my essence, not just Ashley in this human suit, but like in my heart and in my soul. And what I've observed, what I've both lived through and simultaneously observed throughout the past few years of really this undoing and remembering is, yeah, like I triggered the hell out of a lot of people. And it's very triggering for, and I used to take it very personally, especially in the earlier stages of like stripping away the people pleasing. And, I had shoved myself in all of these small boxes, and a lot of it was with my voice where I just wouldn't speak. I wouldn't speak the things that were on my heart, or I would say things and do things that I thought would please others. Um, and then it got to a certain point through, I mean, there were a lot of different things that I walked through and being in therapy, and I hired, I think she would have called herself like a life transformational coach at that point, and I was starting to do the inner healing work. And then it got to a point where it's like, there's no turning back now. Like, you said earlier, it's like your soul was like, I literally, like, there is no other option but to speak the truth and my truth. And the way that other people react or respond is a mere reflection of them, and it has nothing to do with me. And that realization, coming to that realization and releasing all of the other people's weight that I was carrying, was this moment of like, um, it was like a light bulb just went off. And I started to like, I don't take it personally anymore. I'm just kind of like, okay, I've walked, because I'm in a space where I really am observing everything, living and observing at the same time. I've walked into rooms and I feel deeply, and feel into energetics more than I see. Same thing. Like more than I see, I feel subtle shifts in energy. I can sense it. And I'm also a very observant person, so I can see the shifts in your like skin tone, in your like just subtle shifts in your eyes, all of it. I see it all. And I've
Right.
seen like when I enter a space sometimes the shift in someone's body language, or they were in one space and they move further away. And it's like this unconscious behavior that's happening on their part. And I'm like, oh, like, or observing how they interact with one person, and then I'll come and interact and it's a completely different experience. And it's all just coming back to we're simply here reflecting things back to one another. And the triggers at this point for me, if I'm triggered by something, I've been just starting to say thank you. People apologize and I say, you don't have to apologize. Thank you. Because
Yes.
you're helping to bring forth something that has been hiding within me. And I'm here to live the fullest expression of this life, and whatever is meant, like that part of that is having fun and living in a state of joy. The other part of that is being in service and supporting and carrying forth my specific part of this mission. And the triggers and that energy, anywhere that it's stored in my body, is taking up space that I want to utilize. And so I'm just like, okay, thank you. And then triggering other people, I'm like, okay, like I do it with a pure, and I don't mean to, it's not like I'm going to trigger this person today. My intentions are pure and they always come from a space of love. And I just have come to the realization that people meet us where they meet themselves. And there are a lot of people that are not willing to meet themselves, in those like pain points and in the shadows. So it's so important, what I feel like you and I just living in that expression, and other people that are walking their truth. It's so vital. That's all that we can do, is walk in our truth, and it's going to look different from one person to the next. But my truth is mine and yours is yours. And we're all just trying to do our best here, like even in the
Right.
triggers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they're not no one's, as far as my feelings on all of it, no one's ever triggered intentionally from it coming from me,
Mm-hmm.
but the trigger is actually a gift if you can embrace the parts of yourself that it's showing. And when I say you, whoever that's
Mm-hmm.
triggered,
Yeah.
whatever parts that are coming up to be reflected. And it might be
Mm-hmm.
really old stuff. It could be from
Yeah.
even a whole nother place or another time,
Mm-hmm.
or a time that was so traumatic that person might not even remember, but the soul's like, I'm so ready to discard this. It's so heavy and old. And depending on what layer or level they're at, or even the conscious or unconscious awareness of it, will be however that comes up. And
Mm-hmm.
especially now, because the energies are so intense, for all these things to come undone that don't serve anyone, that
Mm-hmm.
some of the stuff coming up looks really uncomfortable in the trigger moments. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, it might have been sitting there for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's trying to do you a favor and say, not another step carrying this. Please put this down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And however it comes up,
Mm-hmm.
whoever helps you in that way with not even awareness, whoever it is, say there is even a gas station brush by moment, who knows, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is,
Right.
it's a favor. It's a favor
Mm-hmm.
for you to say, it's like I'm pretending this is a mirror. Can you look at that? Like, can you
Mm-hmm.
just take a look at that and release
Mm-hmm.
that? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's something going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like you said too earlier, like not depending on how I think deep the wounding is and where the person is currently in their own space of consciousness and also openness too, like being open to experiencing shifts and change and growth, like it can even be like a totally, I don't want to say random, but something that is seemingly so minuscule that then triggers something so deep within them that, like you said, like it's a total like shutdown and like removal from situation. And I've had that through, and I think a lot of individuals that are walking through this what we call an awakening journey, where we're like, okay, I'm here for more than just to exist as a human. There's something else that's happening here. uh I feel like a lot of us go through this dismantling and a lot of like loss. There's like dismantling of this the false self, but then there's this loss that comes with it. Not just loss of these layers of ourselves, but like relationships to other people and relationships to these ideas and beliefs that we held on to. And there are quite a few connections in my life that have dissolved, maybe not as a direct, you know, it's not directly caused by me stepping into my authenticity. And that's the only thing like I can consciously say was the catalyst for things. And it was something that the attachment was something that I really worked a lot on. I had formed attachments to a lot of things outside of myself, but people and my relationships being one of them. And it was all these opportunities to just dissolve the attachments and be like, okay, these energies are not, you're not in that space anymore. Your frequency is trying to shift out of those. And then the more you hold on to these things, you literally cannot keep going forward. And so make a choice. Like, what's your choice here? Is your choice to hold on to this relationship, or is your choice to be fully who you are and step into that expression of unconditional love? And over time, like it was a lot of those conversations with myself, like literally just talking to myself at the time with my therapist, like be like, oh no, like I physically cannot continue suppressing who I am. And I have to choose myself over everyone and everything else, because the alternative, which I had been doing for 26, 27 years at that point in this lifetime, almost killed me. And so it's like, you know, hello, choose yourself. You're not going back that, you can't go back that way at this point. So I'm like
Right.
so grateful. I'm so, so grateful. And I am there's almost like this sense of excitement because of the way things are shifting. And I choose to look at the love side of things. You know, I know that there's a lot of there is a lot of fear and destruction that is happening to our beautiful planet. And part of why I think all of us, to a certain, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us are here to help heal on that, like heal the earth and help heal one another. Oh my gosh, why did I just say that? Sorry, I just had a moment where I was like deep into thought and I just got pulled right out of it. Okay, I guess I guess I wasn't meant to keep sharing that.
That's okay.
It's okay. No, it's perfect. I've gotten to the point with this where it's like, and in my life too, but this is part of my truth. And my expression of self is sometimes I'm so deep in it and then I have a moment where I'm out of it and I'm like, what was I even saying there? That's so funny. All of me is welcome. So that's good.
Yeah, no sorry required. It's just whatever it is and whatever it's not.
Yeah. But I think all of that is just for me to say that it's perfect as it is, and the beings such as yourself that are able to stay in their seat of awareness from a young age and carry that through with them, I feel like we're going to start stepping more and more into souls that are being birthed here that are going to be connected in that way. And it makes me, that's what I was going for. It makes me very excited. There's so much hope. And I choose to look at it that way, where it's like, if we all just continue to stand in our truth and be open to giving and receiving like pure unconditional love, we will arrive at a place where our children on this planet are empowered. They feel empowered to be the little kid that makes bracelets that are probably fucking awesome bracelets that everyone wants, but and then people will not be afraid to say in the group, I want one of those. That's really cool, you know? And it just makes me
Right.
so excited, and I am honored to know you, for us to have connected in this way and to continue to sort of move forward and see the way our paths weave and what we co-create in the future. Because it's conversations like this and people such as yourself that I have a lot of hope, but it just gives me even more hope of what is already happening, the shifts that are happening, and like what the potential of what's to come.
Yes.
It's so beautiful.
Yes. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Mm.
So much is yet to come, and it's
Mm-hmm.
all every moment that we're each expressing and sharing and being
Yeah.
ourselves is the gift. Thank
It's such a
you.
gift. Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Before I close out the space, is there anything that's on your heart or moving through you that you feel called to share?
Um, just a deep gratitude for what your space that you're holding, what you're offering as yourself with your voice, speaking your voice, being yourself, and allowing not just others to do the same, but allowing everyone that comes to find how how your show and the interconnections unfold.
Mm-hmm.
It's inspiring to people to feel that they don't, because no one needs permission to be themselves, right?
Mm-mm.
But it's inspiring for them to be reflected by people that are
Mm-hmm.
in even immersing and diving more into themselves. And that's like the forever blooming garden, each
Mm-hmm.
flower's blooming and the garden's getting more fragrant. And I just want to say thank you, because it's
Mm-hmm.
a gift, and it's also a gift to yourself being you. It's
Mm-hmm.
I'm so honored to be a part of your show. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I appreciate you saying, like, yeah, we're not here to give permission to other people to step into their authentic truth. It's an
Right.
invitation almost. It's like invitation to do that and to see that for some of us, we've been doing it throughout our whole life, and for others, it's been something that's been a learning. It's been an unlearning of the old ways and a relearning of the truth to ourselves. And even if there's a spark of curiosity, it's an invitation to explore that and connect back to the knowing in one's heart that the truth is within you, it's there, and having the courage to just bring it forward and know that there are other people out there that want to hear it and that it can be very healing for others. Like I would never have imagined that by me showing up here and speaking, just being myself, the effects that it's having and the ripples that it's causing outward. And it's such an honor for me to be here. I'm so humbled to be here. So thank you so much for not only that reflection, but just for you, just showing up exactly as you are. You are incredible. And I am just so grateful and so excited um, to watch how things unfold for us.
I completely agree. Thank you so, so much.
Mm. Until next time.
Thanks for being here and checking out this week's episode. I am truly grateful for your continued support, which allows this podcast to keep moving forward. If you feel the call, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. It's deeply appreciated. Until next time, let us continue to hold space for our shadows and allow our light to shine.